This question was sent in by Tom, who wondered, how fast would Earth's oceans drain if a perfectly circular portal, 20 meters across, suddenly opened at the bottom of the Challenger Deep, the deepest point in the ocean? And as the water disappeared, how would the planet itself change? Before diving in, let's clear up one thing right away. Based on some rough calculations, even if an aircraft carrier somehow sank and lodged itself over the opening, the pressure at that depth would be more than sufficient to crumple it like paper and pull it straight through. Which is kind of awesome. Also, an important detail, where does the other end of this portal lead? My personal suggestion is directly above the Curiosity rover on Mars. That way, it could finally detect undeniable liquid water on the Martian surface. So, what happens on Earth when the portal first opens? Surprisingly little. Even with a hole wider than a basketball court and water blasting through it at tremendous speeds, the oceans are so vast that it would take hundreds of thousands of years to drain them completely. Sea level would fall by far less than a centimeter per day. There wouldn't even be a dramatic surface whirlpool, the opening is simply too small relative to the ocean's depth. Now, let's imagine we accelerate the process by adding more portals, or making the drain much larger, all still located at the bottom of the Challenger Deep. At the beginning, the world looks mostly the same. After a 50-meter drop in sea level, the map hasn't changed much, but a few subtle shifts appear. Great Britain, Sri Lanka, New Guinea, Java, and Borneo are no longer islands, they've become connected to nearby landmasses. And after 2 millennia of holding back the sea, the Netherlands finally finds itself completely dry. Some of its famous dikes now trap water inside instead of keeping it out. As global experts in land reclamation, the Dutch, freed from the constant threat of flooding, could redirect their talents toward expanding into the newly exposed seabed. Once sea level reaches -100 meters, the Black Sea stops shrinking because it becomes disconnected from the global ocean. As water continues to drain, more basins around the world are cut off from the Pacific outlet. Depending on the exact shape of the seafloor and the speed of drainage, some channels might deepen and continue flowing longer, but most basins would eventually become isolated and stop losing water altogether. By the time the oceans have dropped 200 meters, the map starts to look genuinely strange. New islands appear everywhere. Indonesia merges into a single massive landmass. And the Netherlands, somehow, now dominates large portions of Europe. At a 500-meter drop, Japan turns into a land bridge linking the Korean peninsula with Russia. New Zealand sprouts additional islands. The Netherlands continues its steady expansion northward. Once the top kilometer of ocean water is gone, the Arctic Ocean becomes isolated, freezing its water level in place. New Zealand, appropriately named after a Dutch province, keeps growing at an alarming rate, while the original Zealanders cross newly exposed land into North America. When sea level falls by 2 kilometers, land seems to erupt everywhere. The Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico lose their connections to the Atlantic Ocean. New Zealand's geography becomes so bizarre that even it may not fully understand what's happening, but that feels consistent with its Dutch-inspired destiny. At 3 kilometers, peaks of the mid-ocean ridge, the longest mountain range on Earth, rise above the surface, revealing enormous stretches of rough, untouched terrain, just waiting for Dutch engineers to arrive. By 5 kilometers of sea level drop, most major ocean basins have become disconnected and stopped draining entirely. Predicting the precise locations and sizes of the remaining inland seas becomes extremely difficult, but one thing seems nearly certain: New Zealand and Old Zealand are finally reunited. When the draining eventually stops, a surprising amount of water still remains. Much of it exists as shallow seas, punctuated by deep trenches where depths might still reach 4 or 5 kilometers. Removing such a vast volume of ocean water would radically reshape Earth's climate and ecosystems in unpredictable ways. At minimum, it would almost certainly trigger a collapse of the biosphere and mass extinctions across nearly all forms of life. Still, unlikely as it may be, it's not impossible that humans could survive. After all, if anyone can engineer their way out of an apocalyptic environmental disaster, it's the Dutch. And with them in charge, we'd probably be in fairly good hands.